you can push the status quo. Like, people think schooling is just a given, but how about we look at it a little bit differently and get a different lens on how we see schooling and what's possible out there, which is what that article and that story did.
Yeah, and I hope that's what all our stories do, provided new perspectives on, age-old, well, not age-old, 200-year-old systems that we've created and have just kind of become mindless robots.
Yeah.
Fulfilling,
But you don't... how it's done, and I would like to know how you portray this, but you don't... It's not like you bag out the old system. You don't hate hate on the old system.
Yeah.
You sort of just tell a really nice alternative story.
Yeah.
Like, does that come into the planning in terms of we don't bag or
well, no, I think there's so much wisdom from the systems that we've created as well. And, Danny, the founder of Small Giants, often talks about hospicing the old and birthing the new. So, still kind of bringing what we're learning from these current paradigms into the thing that we're also wanting to create. So let's not forget what, capitalism, for example, has brought us, all these advances in medicine or whatever, let's learn from that. But let's also see why this system is flawed and what new perspectives can we bring to that. So it's not a conscious thing to completely bag out the old, because I don't think we can. We can't dismiss what we've been creating and what where human civilization has evolved to. We have to work with that. Yeah. And also to bring people along for the ride as well. We can't just say, okay, this is only for people who are forward-looking and are happy to let go of the past and to see that it was all such a mess.
Yeah. Have you found that as the audience over the years you've been here, what's been the evolution of the reader? Have you noticed any shifts or changes in demographic, age, upkeep on? Is it had a real growth phase over a certain period?
It's been definitely a steady growth over the past 5 years, and that's really interesting when we look at what's happening to publishing in general and media, and lots of magazines closing down, and our audience seems to be growing, and we have a lot of platforms now. We don't just have the magazine; we also have a monthly podcast. We have a website where we're providing free content at the moment, so we're always in discussion about whether that should be free. So there are lots of ways people can access the content. And so our reach is getting bigger and bigger. And I don't believe that there has been a massive change in the kind of people that are attracted to our content. We've always had a really broad age demographic for one. The magazine is mostly read by women, we know, who then bring those conversations hopefully into their households. But people like teachers and nurses and people in healthcare, entrepreneurs, always very... we do an annual reader survey, and so these people come up time and again with the number one kind of readership base. And no, I haven't seen that change too much, but we have seen definitely the audience grow, and I think we'll continue to grow the more niche magazines kind of find a way of working with community and speaking to community. And
do you see that as a bit of a theme in the magazine world, that more the niche magazines and more the, I don't know, not authentic, but softer sort of magazines are going to have more of a place, where the more every week magazine to everyone's going to go into a digital format?
Yeah, I mean, look at New Philosopher and Womankind, these beautiful magazines coming from Australia, doing similar work to us, very conscious, very thoughtful approaches to the content curation, and they're doing incredibly well as well. And Peppermint now. We are seeing these magazines thriving in an industry where, the new idea, look at what's been falling down, Cosmo and all of these kind of big names closing shop, because I think people are looking for that authentic value in the content, and a deeper connection point, and a more emotional connection, essentially.
And I think that's, for me, that's with this podcast, it's the bit that we sort of need to rekindle, is the emotional connection.
Yeah.
And long-form storytelling, whether it's through a documentary or a magazine or a podcast, allows the space to tell the story in its full, which is really nice, and which what the magazine does. And it was interesting that link between the documentary making, it's almost that you've taken that into a print form and tried to do the same thing, which is really working. And then now that the podcast is coming as well. So do you guys as a leadership group of that look at your content and look at how you create that to make sure that there's enough overlap but not too much
between the different
podcasts and between the online content?
We are quite conscious about how much of the magazine content stays just for the magazine, so only our kind of magazine readers get that content, and how much we do share on the podcast, because we also have a value of generosity and abundance. We care and believe in this content a lot, and so we want to share it as much as we can, and we understand that some people don't have the finances to be able to access. So we do want to provide, some of the content for free through the website and through the podcast, and we'll continue to do that. But we are also, there are certain stories that we will hold back on because we know that people are more likely to purchase the magazine because of that particular interview, because that person has a profile, for example, potentially. So that is a constant conversation we have between the digital editor and the publisher and I. Yeah.
And what are the values of the Dumbo Feather magazine like? Do you know them, or do you know some of them that really resonate and speak to you?
Yeah, I mean the taglines on the magazine on the header are passion, purpose, and community. So people who are really fulfilling their passions, that have a sense of what their mission is in the world or missions in the world, and how to fulfill them. And then are bringing people around it, because we need community and we need connection to other people to be able to fulfill what our intentions are. So they've always been the underlying.
And they're the same values that you guys use here?
As a team, yeah. And then we measure our success in 4 different ways. So we measure our success by our financial resilience. Yeah. We want to create a sustainable business model, and we work really hard to do that. We measure our success by the impact that we're having with the content. So we're fortunate in that we receive a lot of feedback about how people are responding, what they like, what they might not like, what's shifting them to action, how the content has changed their lives or inspired them to do something. So we measure the impact. We measure the community that we're building around the magazine, so how people are connecting and finding ways to each other through this brand that we're creating. And the culture in our team. So it's really important to us that we're a small team. There's only 5 of us. One is part-time. But that is also a really important value measure of success, and that comes from Small Giants. How do we create a culture where everyone feels connected to their individual purpose, a work culture where people feel inspired to be doing meaningful work, and they want to show up to work, and they don't feel like they're just getting out of the bed in the morning, rolling out.
Well, you guys have got to walk your way, don't you? Like if you're not doing it here as a small team, and shifting that paradigm within, and it's inauthentic if you don't do it on the outside.
Exactly, you've got to be able to embody the things you're talking about, and that's why the magazine is such a beautiful thing for me to be part of and to roll out, because I can see that this is possible. The work that I do, the way I work, is beautiful. It's a dream,
And as editor, what do you protect dearly? So when you read over it and you're about to get into the process, like what are some of the thought processes and internal stories you'll tell yourself when you initially start to get into that detail?
Well, I will always ask. I'm always feeling like, is this shifting my mindset? Yeah. Is this kind of making me think about something in a different way? Is this making me feel a bit more spacious? Maybe is my heart feeling warmed in this process of reading it? Am I getting to know someone? Yeah, I think that's really important. I want to finish this magazine feeling like I've really got to know people, and ideally form a friendship with them, because that's completely possible. So am I learning? Am I intrigued? Those kind of values that I think we've had in journalism and publishing for a long time. We've always sought to entertain and be of interest. But then the next level, that deeper level, which I don't think we see so much, is how is this making me feel, and is this inspiring me to action? We've always been a bit cynical, I think, about inspiring people. In our culture, we have that cynicism around it. So and I certainly have in my life as well. And so that's been a new thing for me to think, okay, is this actually building me up and elevating me and lifting me? And that's okay,
And with the writers you've got that do contribute to the magazine, like what's the general brief to those guys, and what's the process of choosing? Do you choose the writer for the story, or does the story sort of choose the writer? Like, how does that play out?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. So I have a contributor base that I rely on really strongly, and I know what their particular skills are, both as writers, and what their passions are as human beings in the world. So that is really valuable. And so when I come to doing a themed issue, I know, okay, maybe this particular person will be able to write on the topic and do a good job of it. So I'll always reach out to all my contributors and say, these are the things. Do you have an interest? Or I'll just individually go to them and see if we can match. But then, of course, I get submissions all the time from people, wanting to contribute, and often there's a lot of value in that as well, and being open to what people who I haven't worked with before have to offer. Yeah. So stories come in that way as well.
Do you use any of those stories?
Yeah. I'm like, you'd be surprised. Yeah. People, even non-writers. I think you don't have to be a writer to be able to tell a story these days. Or I don't think you ever have, right? I just think we put writers in and it seemed kind of...
The platform's more open now.
Yeah.
Anyone can write about anything on a blog or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you need good writing skills, storytelling skills. But these are essential skills that humanity has had since forever. So, a good storyteller doesn't necessarily mean you have to have been a practiced writer for 10 years. Although we certainly value that, and I'm not going to dismiss that.
And when you get into the internal, external concept and ideas phase, do you shortlist people or stories that you really like that you might go, well, we want to go in this area and here's 4 to 5 people or stories that we could really go after? Let's debate which one we want to have a crack at. Yeah,
so now we're talking more about the people that we profile as distinct from the people writing our stories. So when it comes to curating the mag and who we choose to put, who we choose to feature and profile their stories, that's a mammoth task because we only do 4 magazines a year. That only means 20 people, 5 people per issue, right. Sometimes 6 if I'm able to stretch it, because I do like to do that and challenge myself. But that's not a lot, right? So when it comes to being at the kind of the early stages, which you mentioned before, the blank canvas stages of putting the magazine together, there'll be 20 or 25 people on my list, because people that I've just come to know through my work and haven't found the right opportunity for them to be in the magazine, and now suddenly that theme sings to them. Or I've actually done a lot of research and I've explored, I've researched to who might be able to speak on that topic really well.
What does that look like? Is that you by yourself? Do you bring the team in?
Yeah.
How does it play out?
So this is an ongoing thing, I would say as well. It's not always just at the start of the process, but we're having conversations all the time as a team about people that we might like to profile. There's the whiteboard in the room and names go on that. I work a lot with my publisher Berry. She'll give me a lot of direction, people who are inspiring her. Yep. And then, of course, we have access to this incredible organisation, Small Giants. We work in the building with a lot of game changers, right? Yeah. So, around the kitchen and around the kettle is where a lot of the ideas are generated. Someone from Impact Investment Group will ask me, what's your next issue on? I'll say regenerative agriculture. They'll be like, oh my God, have you talked to this person? And, that's where a lot of the magic happens.
So the kitchen's like the campfire.
Yeah, in many ways. Yeah, it's real campfire activation. So Small Giants plays a big role. And then, we have our team at Dumbo Feather, and then we have a leadership team as well who we meet with once every 2 months, and then they'll potentially give feedback. So
you've got...
Content is coming from a lot of directions.
Yeah, I could imagine. Because there's only... for a year too, that process of if you're meeting with the leadership group every 2 months, so you'll meet with that leadership group before every magazine goes out.
Yeah, twice during the magazine production.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So then, as the editor, what's the filter? What's the filter that then goes? How do you then push the button and make a decision that this is the one, this is what we're going with, and is that you solely?
It is me. Yeah. I would say it's Barry and I, definitely. And it will really come down to the mix of people, So if we've got 2 people that are quite similar in the work they're doing, or in, the way their values or whatever, then we wouldn't put them necessarily together. So we want a real diversity, as I said before, of opinions and views and practice. We want a diversity of people, so we need to think about gender balances and culture balances and age. What is the best representation of this particular topic? So, refining a list of 20 to 30 down to 5 is really about that mix, essentially. Say if all of them were great stories and all of them really ticked all of the boxes that I would typically look for, then it would be around the mix, essentially.
And what skills do you need as the editor to do that really well? But I gather... really well, but still really efficiently. I'd imagine there's still timelines and stuff that needs to deliver. What have you found over the time that you've become editor that you've had to? Is it real high energy with high curiosity? Is there an element of the questions that you really need to ask yourself and potentially bury that gets you to that spot in a really good, healthy position, but also in a position that's vast enough that you've got space? Yeah,
I think that's paramount. That we do the inner work. Ourselves, and that's always been encouraged from me during my time at Dumbo Feather. That I'm checking in with myself. I'm doing stuff that makes me feel like a whole human being in the world, and that that I'm centered and that I can hold this magazine, because this magazine